Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Man in America. I'm your host, Seth Holhouse. So, for this week's economic update with Kirk Elliott, instead of covering some of the financial news and what's happening around the world, or talk about what's happening with BRICS and China and all that stuff, I thought it would be good just to have, since it's Thanksgiving week, it's a little more slow, and I'm already kind of halfway in vacation mode. I say, you know what? Let's just make this a nice, relaxing show, and let's do a little bit of a Q&A. So before the show on Telegram, I asked you all, I said, look, do you have any questions about precious metals that are specifically for Kirk? And you actually asked some fantastic questions. So we're just going to get into some of these questions together. A lot of them are very foundational and fundamental, but for a lot of you, it's probably going to be really helpful to hear the answer to these, because these are questions I'm seeing coming up pretty often, especially when I'm doing a show together with Kirk. So we're just going to dive right in, and let's go and welcome Dr. Kirk Elliott to the show. Good
Hey,
to see you,
Seth.
Kirk.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving week.
Yeah, you too. You too. It's amazing. As crazy as Thanksgiving has been the past couple of years, I feel like there's this new energy about things. I'm really looking forward to the holiday and spending time with family and everything. So it's going to be really nice.
Likewise. I mean, we're just laying low, staying in Denver. Family's coming to us this year for the first time in a long time. So I don't even have to go anywhere, but we'll have a house full, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, honestly, that's the most we could ever ask for. Like that's
Yeah.
the friends and family close to us and our health. Just like what more could we ask for?
Yep.
Um, so as I mentioned, we've got a lot of good questions, and we can just dive in. And this isn't going to be a long episode, so if you want to have your answers be a little more concise, we can get through more of the
Mhm.
questions. But first off, one of the questions I have gotten from people, it's really a question for me, is they're saying, "Oh my gosh, Seth, you're working with Kirk Elliott now. I already moved, my IRA account or a bunch of my money into an account with Noble Gold. Should I be worried?" And the answer is no, you shouldn't be worried. I started working with Kirk Elliott because I've met you, I've seen you a few of these shows, I got to know you personally, and I really like how you run your business. I like how you approach things. You're a strong Christian patriot. These are things that I love. Plus the fact that you're accessible, so I can have you come on the show often, which I really, really enjoy. But it wasn't because I found out something bad about Noble. They're a great company, and all the customers that have gone there so far, I've gotten feedback from, they've told me great things. So it's if you've already worked with them, or you're in the process of working with them, don't worry. It's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing, and you've already made a smart move by moving into precious metals in general. But again, I chose to work with Kirk because I feel like he's becoming part of family to me, and that's really important. And in general, I really want to move as much as what I'm doing into relationships with people that I really, really know and I trust. So again, if you're with Noble Gold, just relax, you're in good hands. And if you're working with Kirk Elliott's team, you're also in good hands. So I thought I would just start with that.
Well, thanks so much for the kind words about me. I mean, that's just awesome, right? And the feeling is mutual, right? It's just likewise. It's a kindred spirit from the get-go. And
Yeah.
for people who invested with Noble Gold, I want to reiterate that it's you're great. You got product, whether you buy a gold eagle or a silver bar, whatever, from different companies, it's going to be the same. Sometimes the pricing is different, but what we thrive on, which is why you and I gel so much, is the relationship side of it, right? Because what we want is a lifetime relationship with our clients. And we know that the transactions are the bookends, right? You buy to get into a trend, you sell to get out of one. And what we do is we thrive on that relationship in between to help melt away people's financial anxiety. And that's what the connection that you and I made so well is just the focus on people. And like you, I like to talk on the air and get the message out
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
So there you go.
Exactly. Exactly. So one of the first questions I want to dive into is, a lot of folks have asked, this isn't one particular person, but I've gotten the question consistently, how does this IRA process work? Because for a lot of people, whether it's the IRA or their 401k, that's where a lot of folks have their money tied up. And there's a lot of penalties and everything that's involved with that. So can you just kind of give like a quick rundown of how does that process work? Like if I have $100,000 sitting in an IRA or a 401k, how would each of those processes work?
Okay. It's real simple, right? It's simpler than most people think, right? So So it's simply a rollover like any other IRA, like you would go from Fidelity to Schwab or Schwab to Merrill Lynch or whatever. It's just a rollover. So it's tax free. So the process is simple. We would talk on the phone, and say, hey, what do you want to protect? What do you want to preserve? How can we help you? Right. And we move the IRA. It's a simple process of sending you an email with an e-sign document that opens up the new IRA bucket, right? So that takes about 15 minutes. And then there's a transfer form that you have to fill out that moves the funds from company A over to us, right? So then that whole process, every administrator is different, Seth. So some can take a few days, some can take a few weeks. Our part gets done in like 24 hours. But it's a function of how quickly will your old administrator release the funds. But I would say 2 days to 2 weeks is going to be an adequate range. And then when the funds get here, I call you. It's like, hey, your funds showed up. Let's talk about the allocation into silver. Did anything change? Because we want to make sure that we're always on the same page at the same time. And then we just allocate you. We buy physical silver, 1,000-ounce bars, 100-ounce bars, 10-ounce bars, 1-ounce rounds. Remember, it's not paper, Seth. It's not silver ETFs. It's not mining shares. It's not mutual funds. It's physical metals, right? But it's just a rollover. Now, here's the cool thing about precious metals IRAs is once you reach 72, there's a required minimum distribution, right? That the government makes you take. If you have a stock, bond, mutual fund, anything like that, you just liquidate the asset and they send you a bank wire check. With precious metals, you don't have to do that. You can do a like-kind distribution, which probably half of my clients are doing right now because they don't necessarily want the money and they don't want to sell the metals because they're growing, right? So you just ship the metals out of your IRA to you. That classifies as the distribution. So there's different ways that you can do it. Now, technically, a traditional has to go to a traditional, a Roth has to go to a Roth, right? If you have a simple, a SEP, all of those can go into a traditional IRA. The 401ks get a little tricky. If you're still working at your current employer, generally until you're 59 and a half, you can't do anything with it. In which case, I would just recommend you go to a money market and sit in cash, sit on the sideline for a bit. But if it's an old 401k from a previous employer, that just rolls into a traditional IRA. Or if you're still at the company and you're 59 and a half, there's an IRS rule called the 59 and a half rule, right? It's an in-service rollover where you can actually take the balance down to zero, move it into a traditional IRA, but you're keeping that 401k open, right? Because you're still employed there, right? You can't get rid of it until you leave. So there's all kinds of options. The bottom line is it's super easy. My team will handle everything except filling out the paperwork. We'll help you fill out the paperwork, but you have to fill it out. And we just get that ball rolling and get you out of the path of the hurricane easily.
That's really helpful, actually, even for me. That I'm not in a place where I've got an IRA or a 401k, and I probably won't get to that place in life because that's just not the direction I'm going. But I think for a lot of people that is the case. But one of the questions that I have about that, and also I see a lot, is also what Kelly is asking on Telegram, who says, how safe is gold and silver in a 401k, i.e., not when you're not in the possession of it? If things go south, how hard would it be to get it? And so I think that, adding to that question, because for you to avoid the taxes and penalties, you can't say, take that $100,000 IRA, move it into silver and gold and be holding it physically, right? Am I correct? It has to be stored in like a third party vault to avoid that. And then if you pull it out, you get taxed upon pulling it out. But is there risk in keeping it in the vault? And how would you answer that?
No, there's no risk per se, right? I mean, the vault that we use has $1 billion of liability protection on it. So that would cover against any kind of shenanigans that would happen, theft or whatever. So that's covered there. The key in a depository storage arrangement is how the contractual status of ownership is, meaning you don't want to have joint ownership with any kind of depository where they can sell the same product over and over and over and over again because they have joint ownership. They don't even have to ask you. That's not safe. That's like fractional reserve banking.
Yeah.
So the one we use has singular ownership, meaning you're the only one that has a right or a claim to it. Now, you're right, Seth. You can't take delivery of metals in an IRA until you distribute out. And then it's just taxed as ordinary income. To avoid the taxation, you keep it in the IRA until you, because there's anything grows tax deferred in an IRA. When you buy and sell, there's no tax on it until you distribute out.
I see. So but when you do that, you like let's just say that I took hypothetically using this figure as $100,000 and say that gold was at, or say that, gold was at $1,000 an ounce. And so I bought 100 ounces of gold. So I would be owning like physical 1 ounce bars. Is that right? Like I could literally go and schedule an appointment and go look at my actual gold that I own. Like, so people, they're not putting money into, say, a gold mining stock or, gold on paper. They're literally buying like, serial marked, bars or coins or whatever it is that are their possession. It's just that someone else is keeping them in an insured vault. Is that correct?
That's correct. Now, if you wanted to go see them, you can. We have to set up that in advance because it's an ultra secure facility, but
Yeah.
it can be done, right?
Okay.
It's just there's processes that we have to go through. But the cool thing is, it's not a certificate, it's not a share, it's not an ETF, it's not a mutual fund. It's actual physical 1,000 ounce, 100 ounce, 10 ounce bars, right? They'll have a hallmark. 1,000 ounce bars have a serial number. They're attached to you. And this is why you, like what we just talked about before, you can take delivery of those metals upon distribution because it's not a share certificate. It's actually a physical thing. And this is where people need to really understand the difference between physical and paper. Because physical, the price, it's not as easy to manipulate the price on like you could on spot price is current futures month delivery price. It's a paper price, right? When you're buying physical metals, it's a function of supply and demand. It's like, how much inventory do you have? How much demand is there? Ooh, there's nothing left. Prices are going to go up. That's economics 101. Acts different than the paper markets do. And that's key to protection and safety is actually buying the physical metals.
I see. I see. And what I've told people in the past too is that, look, if you're concerned about society getting more chaotic and you want to have it, then I'd say, wait until there's a trigger moment where you see that, say there's runs on the bank, or say there's increased violence, or there's, strikes and the shipping companies are shutting down. I would say, keep it, if someone was going with that, and they don't want to pay those taxes and penalties, keep it secure until, society's at a place where you're like, you know what, I'd rather, just pay whatever taxes and penalties there are to distribute it and just have it in hand. But until then, like if you can still go on Amazon and get a book delivered the next day, you can still trust that the delivery service would work. That's kind of what I've also told people as well.
Right. No, that's wise advice. I mean, it's absolutely accurate.
So here's a question from Deborah, who says, total newbie question she's total newbie to the thought process of converting to gold. And she says, the basic question is, how does one make it liquid to use for exchange of goods, services, or other payments? And this is like a really common question, whether it's gold or silver. Let's just say that, again, may say that I've got, $5,000 in silver and $5,000 in gold. If we get to a point where, say, the CBDC rolls out or there's a collapse of the currency, how do I, what use is that? Do you go to a gas station and give them silver, or how would you see the function of silver and gold? How do you see their function play out in a more barter type situation?
Well, it's funny to think about that in America because we've never have actually really lived through that. But other countries where their currencies have collapsed, whether it's Argentina, Venezuela, that when the merchants don't want their currency, they will take anything in exchange for the valuable goods and services that they're selling because they want to survive, they want to live, right? So in a weird sense, where there's a will, there's a way, right? When we get to the point where the currency has collapsed so much that merchants don't want it, people will be trading anything of value back and forth, right? They'll, whether it's
Gallon of gas or a loaf
ammunition
of
or
bread.
gas or water or toilet paper or gold or silver, right? Now, in a barter world, gold isn't necessarily the best because it's too expensive, right? So even at today's prices, but tell you what, if we've gotten to the point where the wheels have fallen off the economy and we're in a barter world, silver is not going to be 21 bucks an ounce. It's probably going to be hundreds of dollars an ounce because everything has fallen apart, right? And gold will be even more. So the key to barter is get the lowest denomination, lowest premium stuff that you can. Nobody's going to care about a rare historical coin, European fractional gold coins, right? Nobody's going to care. I don't care if they're fractional in size, and quarter of an ounce, a fifth of an ounce. They're too expensive, and you'll never get that premium out of it when you go into a barter world. So the key is get the lowest cost, lowest size, smallest size that you can if barter is of concern to you.
And what about, because I had someone ask this in Telegram, and I recently actually bought some because I had an opportunity to, is junk silver, right?
Mhm.
Like, the pre 1971, I think what it was, some of the earlier quarters, dimes, half dollars. Because to me, those are like, like a little silver dime is a great low denomination. I wouldn't recommend, my own perspective is that shouldn't be your main kind of place you're putting money. But say you have 5% of your silver, or whatever percentage, a small percent that is in these really small denominations. But what do you think about having some junk silver laying around?
So it depends on the time that you're buying them, because those are something where the premiums can expand and they can shrink, right? Because
Yeah.
and they're pre 1965 actually. So the dimes and quarters that were minted prior to 1965 and the halves, they were
Okay.
actually made of 90% silver, right? So anything that's newer than that, they're just worth their face value, 25 cents or 10 cents, right? But prior to that, they're worth like a quarter. It's 0.715% of a quarter, right? So if silver's 20 bucks an ounce, quarter, that's $5. So you're looking at about $4 a quarter, right? So for barter, those are fine. I'm not actually recommending people buy them right now because the premiums are too high.
Yeah.
But when the premiums shrink, they're great for barter, right? Because they are small. So my number one coin or metal of choice for a barter world would just be a generic 1 ounce silver round from
Right.
a
Okay.
refinery round. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 20 something dollars right now, but the premiums are the lowest of anything. And that's because you remember, again, in a barter world, nobody's going to care about the premium on it. Nobody's going to care about the rarity, scarcity, whatever. All they care about is the number of ounces. And the best way to get low cost silver is through rounds if you're looking in the 1 ounce size.
I see. Okay. Here's a question from McLean who says, "What do you think about gold backs?" Because I've recently started looking into those as well. I think, is it Nevada in 2011 or so, they started issuing these gold backs, which are a very, very thin layer of gold that's encapsulated with something to kind of protect it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the one word that comes to mind is gimmicky. You know,
Okay.
I mean, generally, when you get to stuff like that, you always pay too much premium for it,
I see.
right?
I see.
So again, even in the gold side, like right now as we speak, a 1 ounce gold bar is about $120 less per ounce than a 1 ounce gold eagle. So again, I like low cost, low premium, maximize the number of ounces that you have. The best way to do that, and in time that things can change, right? But right now, if people wanted gold, I would say 1 ounce gold bar because it's so much less expensive than a 1 ounce gold eagle
I
or a
see.
maple leaf or anything. It's just inexpensive cost per ounce.
I see. And another common question I get is, right now, should, let's just say, again, using the hypothetical, say I had $100,000 to put into precious metals. What ratio would you recommend of silver to gold?
Good question. And for right now, 100% silver.
Really?
Now, here's the reason why. Historically, there's a number, right? It's the ratio. How many ounces of silver does it take to buy 1 ounce of gold? 20 is the historical number. So if you took the price of silver, let's just call it $20 for it's close, it's 21 something, but for math. So $20 an ounce times 20, the historical ratio, that would put gold at $400 an ounce. It's like, wait a second, gold's not $400 an ounce, it's like 1700
Yeah.
because the ratio today is 81. Right. So if you multiply the price of silver times 81, you get the price of gold. So what that number tells us, and this is exciting, Seth, because that tells us either the gold is overvalued or silver is undervalued. That's all that number tells us. So we have to ask one more question. What causes gold or silver to go up? Unsustainable debt, inflationary pressures, political chaos, geopolitical conflict, right? Oh, we have all of those. So gold's not overvalued. It's going to continue to grow, which means silver has some catch up to do. So here's my strategy. And I've been implementing this for over 25 years. When the ratio is this high, let's just call it 80-1, and silver is going to play catch up, which means over time, the ratio gets to 40-1. At 40-1, if we were to liquidate our silver and just use all those profits and go into gold, what do you get? You get twice as many ounces of gold then than what you could have got today, because the ratio's in half. You got twice the amount of gold and you didn't add any new money to your position. It's amazing. It's not magic. It's just math, right?
Yeah.
And so let's say it comes down to 20-1, the historical ratio, right? Then you double up those ounces again. Now, at that point, I would be 100% into gold. And then you ride that trend line up and you actually compound the number of ounces of silver that you can get. So for some of my clients, I would say 60 to 70% of them, they never want to go back into the stock market. They don't trust it. They don't believe it. They want something that's real and tangible. See, we can play that ratio trade, is what I call it, from silver to gold, gold to silver. As prices are going up or going down. And then what we're doing is we're compounding your ounces, which is one of the keys to wealth as time goes on. And we don't have to ever go back into the stock market if you don't want to, because we can trade the two metals against each other and keep growing your portfolio by compounding your ounces.
So it's almost like, I don't know, this may be a silly analogy, but it's like you have two racehorses and you're tracking the progress of each horse. And so sometimes one horse is making a lot more progress than the other ones. And you want to be on the back of that horse and, winning with that horse. Mm-hmm. And so basically, what your team does is you're helping clients. So if I take that $100,000, I say, okay, Kirk, I trust you. I'll put $100,000 into silver. Then you're not just like saying, okay, great, I sold it to you, and thank you, sayonara, right? What you're doing is you're saying, hey, Seth, look, we're watching these markets, and you're saying, hey, silver's now reaching closer to its historical ratio with gold, and that silver you bought for 100,000 is now worth 150,000, but actually gold is lower than what it should be. So you're like, well, how about let's move that 50 or maybe 100 of that, still 150 over to gold, and then gold then you see gold catch up with silver again, and that 150 is now 200. And so in the same way that it's almost like a stock is very passive, you're just kind of hoping that you get stock price increases and it splits, et cetera. So you're actually kind of playing the market, and kind of playing gold and silver against each other, but you're also watching, because there's, I think probably I'd guess that there's certain times when one is more safe than the other and less volatile. So it's, you want to kind of have security in one and opportunity in the other as you're moving back and forth. So is that something that you and your team do?
Yeah. So I wouldn't even call it playing the market. It's more like actively managing it for them, right? Because so today, gold and silver equally as safe, right? So if they're equally as safe, which one's outperforming? Silver, right? Because gold might be up 5 or 6% over the last month and a half. Silver's up 23%. Ooh, we're in silver. If they're equally as safe and one's doing better, we just allocate into the one that's better. And people ask me this all the time. It's like, why silver? Why do you like it so much? It's like, it's not that I like it so much. It's just that it's doing better, right? So we allocate into the one. If gold were doing better, I'd be in gold. But here's the thing. If stocks were booming, maybe we go into stocks, right? It's like, it's not that I care about which asset we're in, as long as it minimizes risk and maximizes return in a client's portfolio. With everything that's going on in the world right now, politically, economically, socially, unsustainable debt, inflationary pressures, interest rates, all of that, the safest asset in the world is silver, which is why I like it so much. Ultimately, silver will peak out. So here's the nature of those markets, Seth, is silver tends to have higher highs and lower lows than gold as a percentage, right, of growth, but a shorter duration of how long it takes to get there. Gold is more of like your steady Eddie kind of investment, right? It's not going to have percentage-wise the big peaks and the valleys. It's just going to consistently grow, but it takes longer to get there, right? So this is why when we're in silver and it's outperforming, we can lock profits and then roll into gold and continue riding gold up for a few more years, probably, because I have no interest, zero interest in the stock market until you get a change in presidency or a change in Congress and you get policies that encourage economic growth, like lowering taxes, lowering interest rates, and creating jobs, right? I don't see any of that happening anytime real soon.
No, unfortunately. Yeah,
Yeah.
we can hope there's a fair election in
We can hope.
2024, but we'll see, right?
Yeah.
So here's another common question, and this one is asked. This is from S. Goss on Telegram. He says, "If I order silver, how does it arrive safely and not get stolen during shipping?"
Well, let's face it. Maybe it does get stolen during shipping. I mean, but it's shipped UPS 2 days and it's insured, right? So once it gets there, somebody has to sign for it, but it's insured the whole way, right? So in about 27 years of doing this, sending out tens of thousands of packages, maybe 7 or 8 have not made it.
And I'm guessing you don't label the package as like gold and silver delivery, right?
No, there's not a picture of a gold foil coin on the outside. Congratulations for your amazing purchase. No, it's a very nondescript box. Nobody knows what's in it, right? And if it gets stolen, if it gets lost or whatever, damaged in shipment, which could happen from time to time, like I've said, it's happened about 8 times, but out of tens of thousands of shipments, right? I mean, we probably do 10,000 every year. I mean, and I've been doing this for 27 years. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, the insurance kicks in, they pay us, we just reship it. So it's not something I would even lose a wink of sleep over.
I see. And the other thing is that, do you have any minimums? And this was actually one of the reasons why I also switched over, because I know that different companies, I know Noble, for instance, they did have a certain minimum for purchase. And for some folks, they're not ready to go spend $5,000 or $10,000 at the first shot. So if someone wants to contact you and say buy, $500 worth of silver, is that something you'd turn away, or how do you handle that?
So we don't have a minimum. It's kind of like the widow's mite principle, right? I want everybody to be a wise steward with what we've been given, and I want to help them get to that point, right? So personally, we don't have a minimum. I don't care. But technically, there kind of is one. For example, if you're buying gold, well, gold's $1,800 an ounce, right? It's going to be about $2,000 if you wanted to buy gold, because you can't cut a gold coin half with a hacksaw, right, and lower the price. It is what it is, cost per ounce. Silver, it costs $25. We drop ship directly from the depository, right? It's $25 for 500 ounces or less. It's free for more than 500 ounces. So I could sell somebody 1 round for like $28, but you double the price because you have to add $25 on for shipping. That doesn't make sense. Even though I don't have a minimum, I would do that, but it doesn't make sense. I would never recommend it. So really, to not nickel and dime somebody on shipping, say $500 technically would probably be a good range to say, I'm not going to go below that, or else the shipping just becomes too much of the total price to actually make sense.
I see. Okay. And if someone's interested in working with you and they call your office, what's the process look like? And I also want to just throw out a quick caveat to people that anybody that's interested, and maybe you can speak to this, is that right now, I know that your phones are ringing off the hook, is you're spreading, people are hearing about you, you have a great reputation. And so people should also understand that this is a very busy business and a lot of people are moving their money into gold and silver right now. So it does take a process. It's not like you can call right now, get Kirk Elliott on the phone, and make a purchase immediately. So it could take some time to handle that process. So I want to just give people that caveat up front. That way their expectations are real. But walk us through the process if someone calls your office and your team.
Yeah. So let's say they heard about us on your show, Man in America, right? So they go to the link that's provided, or just call us 720-605-3900. When they call, you're going to talk to one of my schedulers. I have like 10 of them, right? So they'll ask you questions. What was it that Seth and Kirk were talking about that caused you to want to reach out, right? understand your needs, your desires. We're not being intrusive. We're trying to help you, right? Because we want you to fulfill your dreams. So they'll ask you questions about what IRAs, non-IRAs, what are you wanting to protect, right? Then they'll match you with one of our advisors and or myself, right? Just depends on your personality. We want you to talk with somebody who you're going to feel really, really comfortable with, right? So then at that point, our advisors are amazing, right? They think, they act, they talk like me. They even sometimes even say some of the same dumb jokes, right? So they'll talk to you and map out a strategy for success to get you out of the path of this hurricane. Then at that point, it goes to, we have an asset transfer team. We have teams of specialists, right? That would order paperwork to transfer your IRA over or your old 401k or 403b, right? That's the process. And once the funds arrive, you'll talk to the advisor again or myself, say your funds arrived, let's get you locked in. That's then is where our relationship begins, not ends, right? Because it's just the beginning of our journey together. So at that point, then I will let you all know via weekly video email when it's time to buy, sell, reallocate, get out of Dodge, do whatever needs to be done, right? I will let you know that because I want to make sure that you're not just a transaction, you're not just a number, right? But you're part of the family here. And we want to melt away that financial anxiety and have you understand truly the why we do what we do, why you're in the right place at the right time. And that's what's amazing about that when we want a lifetime relationship with our clients. But how it starts is simply that little leap of faith. Give us a call or fill out that form. And that's the process that you would go through.
Perfect. Okay. So I'll pull up the website as well. So this is, if you go to goldwithseth.com, it takes you to this page on Kirk's website, which is kind of my page it's set up. And so this is his site. There's a little video on there. And here's where you fill out the information, the phone number and everything. Here at the very bottom, you'll see this is where you fill out the basic information that you have. They set you up with a rep. They'll contact you, or again, you call the phone number, which is 720-605-3900. So it's 720-605-3900 or goldwithseth.com. So Kirk, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that for the folks that are watching, this is helpful for you. That was the intention, is that there's a lot of, like the reality is that we're all trying to protect our wealth, and you should do your due diligence. And if you're not sure about gold or silver, or if you're not sure about Kirk, just call them and grill them. That advisor should be able to answer every question you throw at them. And if they don't, or they give you a bad answer, then maybe you should go somewhere else. So really challenge them and say, look, are you who you say you are? And is this how it works? And ask them, some tough questions, because you deserve to. This is your wealth that you've really worked your life to preserve and to accumulate. And so you really deserve to have someone that will be out there fighting for you and that can protect you. So Kirk, thanks again for coming on. It's always a pleasure to have you. And just want to wish everyone a massively happy Thanksgiving. We have so much to be thankful for. Even though we've got Biden and all the crazy stuff happening, we've got our families, we've got our health. There's so much for us to be thankful for.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We truly have a ton to be thankful for and be grateful for. And part of Thanksgiving is giving, right? So make sure that you share your gratitude. It's contagious, right? And enjoy your time with family and friends or wherever you are. And we'll talk to you again next week.
All right. Thanks, Kirk. Take care, man. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.